Hey everyone, Charles Hoskinson here, broadcasting live from warm, sunny Colorado. Before I went to bed, wanted to make a quick video, talk a little bit about Wikipedia, our good friend Wikipedia. So one of my community members directly pinged Jimmy Wales, the founder of Wikipedia, over Twitter, lamenting over the fact that Cardano, despite all of our many accomplishments, does not have a Wikipedia page. And I couldn't resist but jump in, because Jimmy jumped in and said, hey, you guys don't seem to count academic citations or references in any sense of the word as credible. And then he said, no, that's a lie. That's not an accurate statement. The evidence is completely on our side. There are over 75 academic papers that are related, more than 50 directly related to Cardano, over 2,500 citations. We were the second most cited collection of scientific papers in the last 5 years in security and cryptography and computer science. Our GKL paper, The Foundations of Cardano itself, has 927 citations from people ranging from Harvard and MIT to ETH Zurich to Chinese universities to Japanese universities. So basically spanning the entire globe. So in the academic world alone, we've appeared in journals, we have appeared in Springervale books. I have some on my shelf. One of these days I'll show you guys. And none of those are credible. So maybe journalists are credible, like Bloomberg, Wall Street Journal, Fortune magazine, Forbes magazine, probably 200-300 stories at this point from various mainstream media journalists. No, those are not credible. Okay, so maybe governments are credible, like the government of Georgia, where the prime minister writes articles about us. Maybe the government of Ethiopia, where multiple ministries have not only written about us, but have formed partnerships to deploy software on Cardano. No, not credible. Maybe when the president of Mongolia or the US ambassador in Mongolia or others mention us and talk about us, that's a credible resource. No, that's not credible at all. Oh, okay. All the academic labs we've set up for hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars. None of those are credible. Oh, okay. What about University of Wyoming, the first university in the United States to accept a cryptocurrency for a grant in ADA? Is that notable and credible? No, that's not notable and credible. Oh, okay. So apparently none of these things, whether heads of state or perhaps transnational bodies, the European Union, the Horizons 2020 program, $500,000 to IO research to study decentralized software updates. That is Cardano's decentralized software update system. Funding from the European Union. Is that notable and credible for a citation? Nope, not notable and credible for a citation. Maybe when the US Congress, US House of Representatives explicitly mentioned Cardano. Is that a credible citation? Nope, not a credible citation. I own a video game called Legends of Valor that has a Wikipedia page. It is a video game from 1992. No one plays it. It's not worth any money. It hasn't gotten any traction since the early 90s. That is notable for a Wikipedia page. All the citations there, according to David Gerard, the editor who has made unilaterally the decision to delete our page, are apparently not credible, yet Legends of Valor gets to keep a page, is a page. I own it, but that's okay. Cardano, a $3.5 billion cryptocurrency with hundreds of thousands of users in the top 10, which has been around for more than 5 years, which has more than 75 academic papers mentioned by heads of state, transnational bodies, closing deals in Africa, changing the whole world, mentioned hundreds of times by journalists, thousands of podcasts throughout the years, thousands of engineers and various people who have worked on it across the spectrum, mentioned numerous times by luminaries like Eric Elliott and dozens of others, and one of the most innovative ideas around. Every single week, more papers appear in conferences. None of those are notable. These are not my words. These are David Gerard's words, the editor who deleted our page. You can go and check it yourself. And the founder of Wikipedia lied. On Twitter, you can see the fight. He lied and said we were lying. Jimmy, you're lying to people. You need to cut it out. You need to stop it. Okay, you are losing credibility. Your platform is losing credibility. Spend 5 minutes and look into what your editors are doing and what your platform has done. All of our people, EOS and Tezos and all these other, they apparently are notable for a page. We are not. You will not tell us what the standards are. Apparently, when heads of state, when governments, when you have almost 100 papers, 75 plus papers, 2,500 academic citations, you appear in every single thing. People get tenure and have gotten tenure based upon the work that they've done on this project over the last 5 years. Billions of dollars at stake. Your platform says that is not credible. Don't go to goddamn Twitter and say, I'm not helping my case by personally attacking you. We're not personally attacking you. Your people, David Gerard, wrote a book about how our entire industry is a scam. He has repeatedly said on record publicly numerous times, and you can see it yourself, that every one of these projects, every blockchain project is a scam, including Ethereum. And he gets to decide if a cryptocurrency is credible or not. This is the person your platform is empowering. And my competitors get pages. We do not get a page. That's just a fact. It's where we're at. It's where we've lived for years. Every time a page is created, regardless of the citations, it is rapidly deleted. This is a fact. Your platform, Jimmy, is doing this. You might not want to acknowledge it. You might want to lie about it, but the evidence is there and it's overwhelming. And every day we get bigger. Every day we get more notable. Every day we do more deals. We get more papers. We write more code. We accomplish more things. We just beat Ethereum to proof of stake. Okay, we have 1,200 stake pool operators. At some point, you're either going to have to admit you're commercially censoring the Cardano project or that your rules on Wikipedia just don't matter. It's a centralized platform and it's roulette. Apparently, a video game that no one cares about and no one uses from 1992 is so credible it not only deserves a page, but a fairly long page for its class. But a multi-billion-dollar project with hundreds of thousands of people doing incredibly innovative things mentioned by the media at every level from small to large, nation states and transnational bodies does not deserve a page because it's not notable. Unilaterally decided by a person who's gone on record saying cryptocurrencies are a scam. The same person who deleted the Ethereum Wikipedia page and the Ethereum spent years fighting themselves. You have a problem, Jimmy. If you want to acknowledge it or not acknowledge it, that's on you, man. But don't call our people liars. Don't say we're not credible because the evidence and the facts are there. And it's your decision as a platform to acknowledge that or not. And the longer you do this, the more competition you're going to get. And then at some point, Wikipedia will just simply die as a project. You know, it makes me sick to my stomach too, because when I was growing up, I admired Wikipedia. I tell all my friends and family, this is a great project and a great example of what you can do with the decentralized community. And the fact that you as a founder have allowed your organization, your editors, to commercially censor viable projects, I don't give a shit if you like them or not, they're notable and relevant, commercially censor these projects and then lie on Twitter about it is despicable and disgusting. And it's one of the reasons why people should not consider Wikipedia to be a fair source or a reasonable source in any sense of the word. And I call upon Amazon and I call upon Google and all these other organizations that use Wikipedia as a data source. Remember that this data source is corrupted. It's not accurate, it's not credible, and its editors have enormous power over the things that people read. And no matter what's actually true and what's actually there, unfortunately, it's just going to go one way or the other. And sometimes it means old video games can get extensive pages and multi-billion-dollar projects cannot. There's no rhyme and reason about it. There's no following of standards. It doesn't matter if the US Congress mentions you. It doesn't matter if the European Union funds you. It doesn't matter if you're in pretty much every conference in your entire field. It doesn't matter what universities you're partnered with. It does not matter what accomplishments you make, how large you are, how much money your ecosystem is worth. None of these things matter. All that matters is if you get a good editor, you get a page. If you get a bad editor, you get censored. And apparently there's no conflict of interest having an editor who has gone on record saying our entire industry is a scam. I would love to see that argument applied to other areas. I would love to see Donald Trump's Wikipedia page edited by the Democratic National Party. I would love to see Bill Clinton's page be edited by Rush Limbaugh. We would all agree that these are no-nos. These are bad things. You cannot have this kind of bias if you expect to have a fair and balanced representation of an industry, an individual, or a project. Yet somehow, Jimmy, you're totally okay with David Gerard and other people like him having enormous influence and control over cryptocurrencies. It's just that simple. So you tell me, what is your standard? You tell me what citations are notable. Because as far as I see, Bloomberg is a notable organization. Forbes is a notable organization. Fortune is a notable organization. The FT is a notable organization. And the hundreds of others who have written extensive articles, small and large, throughout the years about our projects, the heads of state that have mentioned the project, the ministries that have mentioned and partnered with the project are credible and notable resources. Springer Vale is a very credible academic publisher. Many graduate students in the sciences will remember the yellow jackets on the books and have them floating around. I even have some right here in this room on the mathematics side of the world. And so if academic conferences and academic publications and the things that get professors tenure at major universities such as Harvard and Cornell and MIT are not credible, Jimmy, you tell our community you owe it to them because you've been commercially censoring them for 5 years now. What is the standard? I'd love to see it. And I'd love to be told explicitly, why does EOS and all these other guys, why do they meet that standard and we do not? Why does Ethereum meet that standard and we do not? Just that simple. And if you can't answer that question, or you just straight up use ad hominems and say we're lying or we're accusatory, then I ask you, why does your platform deserve to be credible? Why should anyone believe anything Wikipedia says? Why should anyone believe anything written for that platform? Why should Amazon use it as a data source for Alexa? Why should Google bias their search results to have Wikipedia appear a little higher? Why? Why do you deserve any of these accolades and credibility? And to the people who donate to Wikipedia, this is a call to you, a direct call to you. Do you know where your money is going? Do you understand that your money is going to a platform that supports commercial censorship? A platform that when it's called out, where there's clear double standards or biases or issues with their application of their rules, they just simply do not care. Please consider before you donate money in the future to this organization until at the very least they dignify our question of why are you doing this? Why are you commercially censoring our project? And if they're unwilling to answer that for a $3.5 billion project with hundreds of thousands of good people doing innovative revolutionary work and commercializing in some of the poorest countries in the world, with many great universities connected to it and subsidies from government entities, then who would they be willing to answer that for? And if they're unwilling to acknowledge that it is not proper for people who are blatantly biased against an industry to decide what is credible in that industry or not, then you really have to ask, where is your money that you are donating to Wikipedia going? It's wrong. It's always been wrong. It's always been reprehensible. And I'm sorry, when you call us out on Twitter, we're going to call you out on Twitter. You are the one who is lying. Your platform is the one that's conducting this. The evidence is clear. People can see the screenshots. They can go directly to the deleted page. They can read the arguments of the editors. They can see where the articles have been deleted. They can see the overwhelming evidence we have. A simple Google search of Cardano itself will will provide a plenary source of information and journalists and mainstream publications about the project. You can take a look at IOHK Research, our website, iohk.io. Click on the research tab and see the gigantic library of papers. And for yourselves, Googling those papers, Google will show you the amount of citations from people ranging from MIT to University of Tokyo, all around the world. You can see the conferences we have appeared at, Crypto, CCS, Eurocrypt, and these are the conferences again and again that decide whether someone is a good professor gets tenure or they don't get their contract renewed or not. And you can see the conference proceedings. You see the books that our things have been published in. And you can talk to any academic in the field of cryptography who looks into the blockchain space and ask them about Cardano and ask about the papers behind Cardano. And they will tell you, if they're a reasonable person who's well informed, that this project is doing notable and noteworthy things at the highest levels of science. You can talk to any programmer who's read our code and actually seen what our developers have done, and they will tell you that the code of Cardano is first class. For example, the CEO of QuantStamp recently said that in an article with CoinDesk. The code is novel, the processes are novel, the science is novel, as validated by thousands outside of the project, completely independent of the project, and validated by the hundreds of journalists who've written about us. Jimmy, you are the one who is lying. And that's the way it is. So I finally decided to put my foot down and make a goddamn video about this because I'm so frustrated about it, because I see the pain it causes our community. I see the confusion and sadness our people have asking simple questions like, why doesn't Cardano have an English Wikipedia page? Again and again, we get asked this question in our Telegram groups, with some of which with more than 15,000 people. Innocently, people come in asking this question. Some people try to create pages, which are speedily deleted by your editors, and you have the audacity to come and say that academic citations are notable and credible. Then you tell me which ones are. Because as far as I'm concerned, IACR conferences are the gold standard for an entire field of study, some people of which have spent 40 plus years of their lives, such as Adi Shamir. If that's not credible to you, Jimmy, you tell me what is. You tell me. You tell our community. And if you're not willing to do that, have the goddamn decency just to say nothing. Don't you dare call us liars, and don't you dare say that we're the problem here. David Gerard is, and your ecosystem is the problem here. And that's it. At some point, the Cardano project will get so large, you're just not going to be able to ignore it anymore. And one of these days, we're going to run into each other at a conference. If it's not Davos, it's going to be somewhere else. I'm going to look you straight in the face. And I'm going to ask you straight in the face, why did you lie? Maybe then you can actually give me a goddamn answer. The other thing is that one day we will build a replacement for Wikipedia. If it's not going to be Everpedia, it'll be something else. And then you're going to have to compete with a truly decentralized platform that actually does have ethics and values and no double standards built into it and is credible. You see, that's the ultimate solution for when people build centralized monarchies with the audacity to violate their own rules on a consistent basis. They get replaced. So this is your chance to either be the right guy and actually at least explain to us what the standards are and why we did not meet them, or it's your first step, if not probably more than the first one. It's one of many steps on the road to obsolescence, just as all the other tech startups faced at some point. As for me, I'm not going to talk about Wikipedia anymore. I'm not going to care much about Wikipedia anymore. By the way, we've been censored in other articles. Despite the fact that we are the single most cited proof-of-stake protocol, we have no representation there. And when we try to get it, it's labeled as IOHK spam. Some of the scientists who work for my company and have written phenomenal academic research, like Phil Wadler, have had their Wikipedia pages edited just when it was mentioned that they're employed by my company. I'm sorry, if an academic chooses to spend his time writing papers for our projects, that's not spam. If they're notable enough to have a paper, you don't get to decide that it's relevant that they work for Sun and IBM, but not relevant that they work for me. It's just the way it is. And these are just some examples. There's been numerous examples. It is systemic commercial censorship. But that is what this platform has decided to do. And we've tolerated it. But what I will not tolerate is you going to Twitter and lying about the project. Just that simple. So Jimmy, the ball's in your court. I would love to see your response. At some point, we'll see each other in person. I'm going to look you right in the eyes and ask you, what is your response to this? And of course, you're probably just going to blow it off and walk away because you're too big and too important of a guy, you know? And there's been plenty of people, Silicon Valley, who've thought that to themselves, and they're footnotes and bigger stories. And to the Cardano community, we don't have to take this on the chin. The DC fund exists. It's only going to get more money. It's only going to get better. I would love to see in future funds replacements for Wikipedia. Let's incubate it. Let's innovate our way out of this. And to the cryptocurrency space as a whole, the many of which who have suffered censorship as a direct result of David Gerard, whose name, if you Google, you'll see the projects. To others, you know what? We'll get through it as an ecosystem, and no one should be treated this way, ever. So thank you all for listening. I do appreciate it, and I hope we can resolve this in an amicable way. Really do. And Jimmy, I really look forward to hearing you say something about this. I really do. I'd love to hear your response to this. It's about time you answer for your editors and own up to their egregious behavior.